Alright guys, and welcome back to the Don's channel. I am the Donfather, and I'm now going to be reacting to a video entitled "They Don't Make Players Like George Best Anymore," and this is from Oh My Goal. It's just been released a few days ago on YouTube, and it was brought to my attention by one of my mates, and the integrity of the information's been put into question. There's a lot of shady sounding stuff in this video that if there's any viewers who don't know much about George Best, his past, him as type, what he was like as a football player, or his personal life, or the story surrounding his death, then don't buy into everything that you hear in this video. If there's anything that I can clear up and call out as being complete nonsense, I will definitely do that. So stay tuned. Yes, I'm going to react throughout the video, but stay tuned for a review. I've not actually watched this video yet. I'm really looking forward to it because I hope there's some footage of George Best playing the game. George Best was described by the world's greatest players in the last 50 years or so as being arguably the best player that ever lived. His personal opinion, I think he's certainly up there with the best players in the world. Diego Maradona. You could put them into the same categories as your Messis and Ronaldos, but I do believe nowadays they're probably in a little bit of a higher category than the guys from the past. However, in his era, definitely one of the best players that ever graced the game. So, as I say, the video has been brought to my attention. I'm going to react and give it a review, so let's go!
Football by George Best.
Best was arrested, taken by Manchester police just after 2 o'clock this morning.
Best back in the pub and back in the papers, well and truly off the wagon.
It's all behind me now.
He's not good.
Dennis Law, legend. Key word at the end, gossip.
George Best once said, "Pele calling me the world's greatest footballer is the ultimate salute to my life." But the salutes would soon turn to sadness as gossip columns around the world cover the mighty fall of a player that many still consider one of the greatest dribblers in the sport's history. Like any good story, you should start at the beginning. Unless it's Marvel's Captain America: The First Avenger, where you're best starting about a third of the way through.
What is that
Born
nonsense?
1946 in Northern Ireland, a region known less for football and more for their stunning golf links. Okay. George Best is brought up Presbyterian by his two loving parents, Anne and Dick Best. Fun cautionary tale regarding Dick Best. If you're ever researching George Best for a soccer story, do not enter his father's name into a Google image search on your wife's iPad, because you have a lot of explaining to do. To those who know Anne Best, she's a
the guy's passed away. That's
mother
mental.
who encourages her children to be kind and respectful to all, including animals. Best's father, Dick Best, it's just too dangerous. You find your own.
What are they doing?
As a youth, George is already showing quick glimpses of spectacular footwork, goal-scoring ability, and exceptional speed, which will ultimately define his early professional career. At 15, George Best, like a pretty blonde by herself at a Hollywood nightclub, is approached by a gentleman claiming to be a talent scout.
What is
But the
this?
scout is not looking for a one-off night of passion. No, he's looking to score. Multiple nights and multiple years of passion and on-the-pitch excitement for one of the all-time great football franchises, Manchester United. By the way, this scout also works part-time as a shipbuilder for the very same company that built the Titanic. How did those guys stay in business? George Best is quickly signed by United's chief scout, Joe Armstrong, no relation to Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong. But the band's hit single, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, does kind of sum up George's start with Man U. After 2 days
Is this
with
about
the
George
team,
Best or
George is
some
homesick
drivel?
and retreats back to Northern Ireland. After 2 weeks at home, contemplating his future, and again failing to persuade his dad to legally change his name to anything but Dick.
Oh my
George
God.
returns to Manchester United. By
This joke's gonna
1963,
be through.
George shows real ability on the pitch, with pacing, balance, and great two-footedness. Yeah, that's a word. Making him difficult to contain. Opponents try tough and dirty tactics to smother the Northern Irishman's gazelle-like movements. But thanks to his manager's fierce, sometimes brutal training sessions, Best embraces the rough play as just another day at the office. In his first full season, Best helps Man U claim the First Division title. It's around this time the English press takes notice of the rising star, boyish good looks and all, ultimately cementing him a tabloid sensation for the rest of his life. At 19, George sees his career rocketed to even greater heights following his 2-goal performance in the European Cup quarter-final against Portuguese powerhouse Benfica. His talented and budding playboy lifestyle lead the Portuguese press to dub the young superstar the fifth beater.
Benfica?
When the team returns to England, George's swagger meter is dialed way past 100 when he's photographed wearing this massive sombrero. Today, any athlete spotted wearing a sombrero, unless you're Floyd Mayweather Jr., would be brutally scorched on social media. But in '66, it stamps you as a media darling, with numerous new doors of opportunity suddenly flung wide open for you. Unfortunately for George Best, many of these opportunities, staying with the sombrero theme here, were no bueno. Drugs, Girls, Money, and Liquor is a hit song by American underground rapper Spoons. But it's also the 4 things columnists continue to spot George Best pouring through at a rate many worry will ultimately drown the Northern Irish star.
I've never seen anybody drown from alcohol.
Best turns in the greatest season of his career, once again leading United against Benfica, this time with the European Cup at stake. Just 3 minutes into extra time, Best goes on the maziest of runs, zigzagging past the goalie for an easy roll-in to
What
the
a
net.
goal.
Following the European Cup win, Best runs away with the coveted Ballon d'Or award,
No,
earning him a trifecta of league title.
There was no such thing as Ballon d'Or
European Cup
back
champion,
then.
And Player of
In
the
the
Year.
European Player of the Year.
But with George's celebrity status on the rise, so too does his number of personal demons. Amazingly, Best was very open and willing to deliver the media quotes about his many extracurricular exploits, delivering lines like, "If given the choice between smashing a goal from 30 yards against Liverpool or going to bed with Miss World, it'd have been a difficult choice. Luckily, I had both." And this, in 69,
This is true, quite a lot of this
women
stuff.
and alcohol. It was the worst 20 minutes of my life. And
That's a true quote.
I used to go missing a lot. Miss Canada, Miss United Kingdom, Miss World.
Very, what a
What a
legend.
line. No, not the quote. The line of cocaine Best allegedly begins doing before matches in the early 1970s. Some might
Bill.
say, come on, it was the 70s.
Absolute
What's the big
horseshit.
deal? No, this behavior, once again, is no bueno. The Playboy
Prove
lifestyle
it.
would finally catch him. George's ability, once considered possibly the best ever, is now in complete freefall. At just 27 years of age, Best abruptly leaves United.
George Best, you've had a night to think about it. Are you still definitely quitting football?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
You've been at Manchester United since you were a teenager. What are your feelings about leaving the club?
Obviously, a little sad, but I've made a decision. I think it's the right one.
Best abruptly leaves United for a short-lived retirement before eventually embarking on a jumbled 10-year odyssey of stints, playing everywhere from Hong Kong to Los Angeles, Ireland to Australia. As great as his runs on the pitch, the aging star is never able to outrun his demons, as alcoholism, controversy, and arrests seem to always trot just a few paces behind him. Just as drugs and alcohol robbed Best of his career, so too did it ultimately rob him of his life. He passes away in 2005 due to drug-related complications. George Best was 59. It's difficult, but if you can see past the media stories,
Stay
and the
tuned till the
alcohol,
end.
and the scantily clad women, well, actually, who knows? Some could have been respectfully clad. But if you look past all of that, what you're left with is a man who truly loved the game and felt safest when playing it. Best was a man who even later in life found himself attending many Manchester games, simply as a fan.
Manchester
a
games.
football genius, witty as ever, and still reliable for
This
one-of-a-kind
video is
quotes
horrendous,
about
Trips.
the top Man U stars of the day. Turns out, Best was very low on David Beckham, but quite high on a lot of things, but very high on CR7. Once quoted saying, "Over the years, many players have been described as the next George Best. But with Cristiano Ronaldo, it's the first time it's been
What
a
a football
compliment
player,
to me."
Ronaldo.
And on David Beckham, George did not disappoint, saying, "Beckham cannot kick, he cannot head a ball, he cannot tackle, and he doesn't score many goals. But apart from that, he's all right." In closing, George Best, while on the pitch, was indeed one of the best.
Beautiful football by George Best.
And wow, still can't believe his dad's name was Dick Best.
Right.
Unreal.
It was funny the first time, second time, bit of a giggle. Horrendous to drag it out for a third and fourth time. A joke about his father's name, Dick. Obviously his name was Richard.
Thank you for watching this video.
He was
If you
more
enjoyed it, don't forget to
famously
leave us a
known
like
in
and
Northern
please
Ireland
subscribe
as
to the
Dickie
channel.
Best.
Now,
They've obviously changed the term, the short term Dickie to Dick to make a joke, which I can appreciate, can be quite funny. Dick Best, don't put it into Google, etc. on your wife's iPad. Funny joke. They've ran with it 4 to 5 times there. The man's dead, so I mean, it's not that funny. Right, the Titanic joke. The Titanic joke, fair enough, it's a joke, but it was fine when it left Belfast. It's nothing to do with Belfast shipbuilding abilities. Everybody knows how that ship went down. So that's a non-starter. That joke for a start, really. George Best and cocaine, massive question mark there. Kept going on about his drug problems. George Best suffered from alcoholism, which isn't really something we should laugh at. Yes, there's jokes about alcoholics. Everybody will make jokes about people drinking alcohol, especially in Western society. But continuously make jokes about it when the man's passed away and throw cocaine in there, suggesting that he did lines before games, is absolutely outrageous. The credibility of this channel needs to be brought into question. I mean, they've done absolutely zero background research. They've went on Wikipedia, and that's what they've done. If you go into Wikipedia, anybody can add any fact into Wikipedia, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a fact. I could go on and change a fact about Oh My Go, saying that they create their stuff in, I don't know, Cambodia and Southeast Asia. That's where their channel's from. Boom, and all of a sudden that's where their channel's from. Do you know what I mean? These facts are absolute drivel. Northern Ireland is not known for its golf links. Yes, there's famous courses such as the Royal Port Rush. There's one in Enniskillen for County Fermanagh. Obviously McIlroy, who won the US Open, is a famous golfer, but other than that, I think there's other things that could have been mentioned, given that this is 3 days old, and currently the world's biggest ever TV series, Game of Thrones, is airing right now, its last and final series. It could have mentioned how where George Best is from, and the east of the city, East Belfast, they actually filmed most of the studio stuff in East Belfast for Game of Thrones, so that's a huge thing they could have mentioned. I found the video, if it had shown a little bit more of the football stats, skills, how much time he had spent at United, how the story of how he signed for Manchester United, I could have given it a little bit more respect. There is an interesting story though about George Best as a youngster before he was discovered at Manchester United. There's a local team in East Belfast known as Glentoran that play in the Oval Stadium, and he lived literally a stone's throw away from the Oval Stadium at East Belfast there, and he was doing trials for the club anyway, and I think it was trials, or he turned up for training, and the coach didn't want to sign him, or the manager at the time didn't want to sign him, because he said he was too light and small and he would never make it as a player. Fast forward a short time later and he signs for Manchester United, and the rest is history. He went on to become one of the most world-renowned football players ever. His skill was unbelievable. Yes, players didn't know how to tackle him, so he kicked them. He was hard as a bag of nails. He could ride a challenge. He could go through the kicks, get back up and dribble around people. And you know what? He would dribble around them again just to prove he could. World-class talent. Scored fantastic goals. Held the goal-scoring record at Manchester United for goals in a season, I think, up until Cristiano Ronaldo. So this went on for approximately 40-odd years, this goal-scoring record of goals in a season, I think. So, you know, that alone shows you how good a player he was. But this video concentrates on absolute nonsense about drug addictions. Yes, we all love the jokes about George Best and the women, the cars. A famous quote was, he spent most of his money on booze and birds, the rest he just squandered, which is quite a funny quote. As I say, he did have funny quotes, and a lot of them have got alcohol references to them. But I do think this... I've came across a lot of faceless YouTube channels now where there's no face on the camera, there's nobody sitting there talking, there's nobody bringing in and going through facts, stats, figures, highlights of a man. Really, they were showing highlights of bloody Captain America on this. Do you know what I mean? It's like me taking an American sports star, a hugely famous American sports star from the past, like Michael Jordan in basketball, and going, he was famous for featuring in a cartoon or something like that. Zero research going into it, pure ignorance. I question their credibility in producing this drivel, and the fact that they've got 1.8 million subscribers somewhat baffles me, because if you genuinely believe that this stuff is real, then you're as delusional as the people who's made it, the video. It's absolutely incredible. I respect the fact they've covered George Best, but they would have been safer just leaving it alone if that's the stats, or if this is the facts they've hit us with. Incredible. And the best of it is, I believe that there's good comments. Great video, very insightful. Thanks for the facts. Jesus wept. In fact, Jesus is weeping continuously at this video. Beggars belief. George Best will always be remembered to me as an absolute legend of the sport, a hero to people from Northern Ireland and Manchester United supporters. And he did have stints in other clubs, as it said. He did have a lot of stints at clubs, in fairness. But he never left Manchester United because he was sniffing lines of cocaine before the games. That much is just absolute bull. He did drink alcohol when he was training. He did drink before matches. I think the reason why he actually did leave Manchester United in the end was because he was drinking before training and before games, and he'd been told if he turns up drunk he will be on the bench, and he says, if you put me on the bench, I'm not playing for this football club again. And he turned up drunk, got put on the bench, and he never played. He left Manchester United. That's the way of it that I think it actually panned out. Now to his death. His death was not due to drugs. He had liver failure due to alcoholism, and he was on immunosuppressive drugs that were helping basically keep him alive due to him having an alcohol addiction and liver failure. So absolute drivel of the highest degree. I had to put this video out there. Magic stuff. I thought that I would laugh more because I knew the integrity was in question here. I thought I would laugh it off, but it actually did bother me because the references were repetitive. The joke was possibly funny the first time, but the references were very repetitive. I might look in to see what they say about other stars that have died maybe as well. I think they've done Johan Cruyff recently as well, so it'll be interesting to see what they say about him. Wow. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you've anything else you'd like to see me reacting to, please feel free to drop a comment in the section below. That was just mental. Thanks again for watching. I am the Donfather.